He comes to the unruly, the stern, and the unkempt, speaking sweet words of spikes coated in honey. He is a tall man, cloaked in darkness, and the world itself warps with his presence. He brings those two beasts, anarchy and chaos, with him wherever he treads, and to see him is to know true despair. You must uphold your morals to the highest regard to avoid this combat. I am of course referring to the Cat in the Hat. Okay, yeah, I think that might have been the dumbest opening I've ever made. I also think this might be the dumbest video I've ever made. Allow me to explain. I sat down recently to watch The Cat in the Hat, the live-action film from 2003 starring Mike Myers. It was one of my favorite childhood movies, please don't judge me too harshly, and I intended to rewatch it for the express purpose of coming to terms with how bad it was. Which, yeah, it's pretty bad.
Dirty hoe!
However, I discovered something interesting. There are a lot of similarities between the story told here and the tropes of classic cosmic horror. The cat himself is a somewhat eldritch entity that twists the laws of physics into pretzels, and don't even get me started on the alternate world seeping into ours through the cracks of reality, simply referred to as
my place, what do you think?
Please do not, for 1 second, think I am being serious here. Do I truly believe that The Cat in the Hat 2003 was made with the express purpose to pay homage to our supreme Dark Lord H.P. Lovecraft? I'd like to say yes. You don't know how badly I would like to say yes, but no, I don't. Do I think that one of the writers was probably a fan or even a second-hand fan of cosmic horror and some of the tropes ended up sneaking through into this inane children's movie? Yes. Yes, I absolutely do. However, this video isn't just going to be pointing out the similarities between the cat and general cosmic horror. Oh no, because this is me we're talking about. I am known for taking things way further than they need to go. So here is my analytical argument about why the Cat in the Hat is part of H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. Kind of. If you're new around here, I'm Hedgehog, and yeah, this is all just a bunch of nonsense. Also, special thanks to my patrons for voting for this episode. If you want to join them, link in the description below. In order to fill my quota for the video, I am a writer. Specifically, I consider myself, vaguely at least, a cosmic horror writer. I know a great deal about this subgenre, which has been attained from years of research, and there's still so many stories and authors that I haven't read. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that someday I will inevitably write a serious video about cosmic horror and H.P. Lovecraft. For now, however, for those simpletons among us, let me briefly explain what the fuck I'm even talking about. Cosmic horror is the bizarre love child of science fiction and supernatural horror, with a heavy dose of existentialism thrown in for spice. In cosmic horror, the universe is a vast and terrifying place, so huge that to the entities that dwell between the stars and under the sea, we are but tiny ants not even worth their attention. And like tiny ants, we are liable to be squished at any given moment without a second thought. The universe isn't hostile, it's just simply uncaring, and I find that even more terrifying. This is the mindset that was developed by a small subset of pulp magazine authors in the early 1900s, as the world was beginning to become wider and more complicated, and we as humanity were beginning to grow unsure of our superior place within it. Thusly, tales were created about vast alien entities from the furthest reaches of the cosmos that were simply too large and incomprehensible to be talked to or reasoned with. Oftentimes, these entities are more equated to gods than creatures, and are the subject of worship by various human cults. Though he wasn't the first writer to pen stories of this nature, the primary codifier of this trope is a dude called H.P. Lovecraft. If you don't recognize the name, you'll probably recognize this mug. Lovecraft was known primarily for several beings, I don't really know, that he created over the course of his 20-year career. The one you're probably all familiar with is Cthulhu, who lies dreaming deep beneath the sea in the city of R'lyeh until the stars become right. But he also created entities such as Azathoth, the blind idiot god at the center of the universe, Shub-Niggurath, the goat with 1,000 young, and Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos, messenger of the gods who bears 1,000 forms. Nyarlathotep in particular is a pretty big figure in the mythos, as he's the only god who will even deign to communicate with humans. He sometimes takes human form, as in his first appearance, the story Nyarlathotep, and seems to be somewhat lesser than the other gods, more comprehensible, if barely. But yeah, these are all basically nonsense, even to me. In recent years, Lovecraft has become a somewhat controversial figure. Even for the time period he wrote in, his thoughts on people of other genders and races were a little backwards. Though, with one or two exceptions, it's always the damn cat! Having read nearly every single story he ever wrote, I think those allegations are blown just a little out of proportion. I'll have to properly address the controversy at some point given my almost fanatical devotion to the man, but for now, this is Lovecraft. He's responsible for everything from Neon Genesis Evangelion to the Mind Flayers from D&D, and also, as I'm about to posit, the Cat in the Hat.
Let's take a look under the hood. Where's my jack? Sorry.
The film starts with a pretty picturesque shot of the town before moving into the office of Mr. Humberflube, who is still, after all these years, the best part of this movie.
You're fired!
But Mr. Humberflube himself is actually an important element of our analysis. Along with the shots of the town and the office, Humberflube represents the normal world, how things should be. He is order to the cat's chaos, from the strict way he runs his business to the fact that he counts to 10 while sanitizing his hands, which he does frequently. As we'll see soon, this entire world is run on extremely orderly principles, and Humberflube is our first exposure to that. Also, is it just me, or does he bear a passing resemblance to Uncle Lovecraft? Oh my god, I was wrong. It was all on purpose. Holy shit, I've cracked this conspiracy wide open! As we move into the suburbs in order to meet our two main characters, we might notice that this entire town is built on the back of 1950s aesthetics. To an American audience, at least, this time period signifies some very specific things. The 1950s were a time when, for your average boomer at least, the world was simple and easy. Life was good, and everyone lived in the same housing design and identical suburban developments. The nuclear family was king, with the ideal being a husband, wife, 2 kids, and a dog, and you were judged based on how close you were to this very specific ideal. If that's not the definition of orderly, then I don't know what is. Our two main characters have various opinions on this specific way of life. Sally, the girl, absolutely buys into everything about it to the extent that no one likes her. Conrad, on the other hand, actively fights against it by making a mess of the house and doing stupid stunts like this one. Why am I making such a big deal out of this? Give me a minute, I'm still setting up all the pieces, hold your horses. Most of you sat through a 2-hour-long Higurashi video, so you have no excuse to complain. Joan, the kid's mom, is an employee of Humberflube's who now has to throw a meet and greet party for the company and their clients. Unfortunately, Conrad is always getting in the way of her nice, clean house. Already, we can see that this family is not the ideal that the 50s were looking for. We've got the mom, the 2 kids, and the dog, but there is no father. Joan is a single mom who is clearly struggling to balance work and family time with her kids. Oh, wait, no, here's the father figure we all wanted.
Hold on to your tits and bits because we have got 3 doors down.
This is Larry.
It's Lawrence.
Oh, sorry. Lawrence, the neighbor who's dating Joan. He has a dastardly plan to send Conrad to military school and move into their house. We are never aware of why these two things are connected in his brain, but I think it proves that there is already madness lurking behind his eyes. In most Lovecraft stories, there is one supporting character who always succumbs to the madness far before the main character ever does. Think Wilcox the artist from the Call of Cthulhu or Pickman from Pickman's Model. The purpose of this character is to introduce us to the other and show the effects it has on mortal minds before our main character suffers the same fate, usually from a first-person perspective. Though the kids come out of this story relatively unscathed, Larry shows what could have happened had the kids not changed to become caring, thoughtful individuals. After he comes over to harass the family for a while, Joan gets called back into work and instructs the children that
no one sets foot in the living room or else.
This particular line has no bearing on my analysis, it's just been circling around my brain living rent-free for years. She calls a babysitter and the true Eldritch creature we've been waiting for arrives. I'm kidding. I have no idea why they made her like this though. Anyway, she quickly falls asleep watching Taiwanese politics, and on top of that, it starts to rain. The kids are depressed and mopey, and it looks like the day is gonna be pretty boring. And then, oh god, And then, the creature with 1,000 guises enters our story.
Why, I'm the Cat in the Hat. There's no doubt about that. I'm a super fundiferous feline who's here to make sure that you're me-line, key-lime, turpentine. I got nothing. I'm not so good with the rhyming. Not really. No.
Okay, yeah, I could say some things about Mike Myers' performance here, but I'm going to refrain. This is where the movie takes a whole 180 and goes apeshit. Up until this point, the story has been moving at a relaxed pace for a kids' movie, really taking its time to set up the characters, the setting, and the general conflict. But as soon as the cat enters the picture, the story picks up its pace. It devolves into nonsense for about the next 20 minutes or so as we introduce the cat and watch Mike Myers' drunk stand-up routine, and won't actually follow a plot again until a newly introduced conflict literally runs out the door. As that's all the story is doing at the moment, I think it's a good time to talk about our furry friend here. The Cat in the Hat is an eldritch being of incomprehensible logic. I think we can all agree on that. But let's break down exactly why he fits the tropes of cosmic horror so well here. One of the very first things he does is look directly at the camera and break the fourth wall. This in particular isn't a trait of classic Lovecraft monstrosities, but various modern interpretations have all put this storytelling method to use when showing how other or alien a character or concept is. Bill Cipher and his home plane have a very casual relationship with the fourth wall, as does Drosselmeyer from Princess Tutu. He also does not care about the laws of physics, teleporting from place to place in between shots, multiplying himself, and somehow sticking to the ceiling. This trait does have precedence in classic Lovecraft fiction, as one of his main antagonists, Keziah Mason from The Dreams in the Witch House, has fully traversed several different realities and time periods by taking advantage of specific angles, as do the infamous Hounds of Tindalos from Lovecraft contemporary Frank Belknap Long. The cat also causes the picture of Joan that he checks out to disappear by seemingly sticking it somewhere? Regardless of what he does with it, it's gone in the next shot and we never see it again. So it's clear that the cat has some level of ability using the angles of the world to defy physics. The cat is also incredibly strong, able to lift Mrs. Kwan with a coat hanger like she weighs nothing, and has a wide variety of alien technology, most of which emerge in some capacity from his titular hat, but others like the Slow also appearing out of nowhere. One of the cat's most important abilities, I think, is that he is constantly warping the world around him. And I don't just mean with the crate that we will get to, believe you me. From the moment he first appears, the world begins to change. It becomes less grounded, more zany. Some of this stems from a change in directing style, obviously, to account for the cat's, presence. But there is one major element of their house that changes once the cat comes into the picture. The fish. Before the cat arrives, we get a very clear shot of the fish, and he's an entirely normal goldfish. Look at him, he swim. But shortly after the cat appears, that sweet boy is replaced by this horrifying CGI mess. Most importantly, after the cat leaves, he doesn't return to normal. The implications of this are kinda scary if you really sit down to think about it. The cat didn't actively do anything to change the fish's nature, yet it's clear that it is his presence that caused the change, which means the cat changes things entirely subconsciously. Think about it. There are so many things that could be different and we would have no idea. What else could be changed about this world now that the cat has been in it? His powers are entirely bizarre and arbitrary, including some things that repeatedly put the kids in danger. Anything could be different now, and at any moment this world could be put into jeopardy. I hate that implication, so let's move on. It's clear by this point that the cat is something strange. But wait, I hear you typing in the comments already. I thought you said you were going to place the cat in the hat directly in Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. Yes, I am. Because with this final piece of the puzzle, I can confidently say who the cat is. You might have picked up on it already. The key lies in the fact that the cat, even over the course of this small 90-minute movie, appears in several different guises. There's the Rastafarian hippie, there's the salsa dancer, there's the mechanic, the two hosts of the cooking infomercial. Need I continue? You may recall earlier I mentioned a specific entity from the mythos that has many different forms. So I'm beginning my call-out post right here and now, for I am the bearer of the truth. It may be unpleasant, but someone must tell the people the cat in a hat's true identity is really Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos messenger of the gods who bears 1,000 forms. You know, like Nya. I have many reasons for believing this. And to prove my point, we are going to take a small look at the Lovecraft stories which feature Nyarlathotep. There are 4 primary sources for information on Nyarlathotep. The original, Nyarlathotep, The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, The Whisperer in Darkness, and The Haunter in the Dark. Of these, the latter depicts him primarily as a screaming monster, so that story is of little use to us, but each of the 3 others have interesting information. Nyarlathotep is the first appearance of the subject of interest, and in this tale he appears as a dark man from the desert who delights and horrifies the people of the Western world with his strange displays of science and magic. Eventually, all who have seen his gadgets fall into a strange, hypnotic state and proceed to follow him out into the desert. It's not a perfect match to the cat, but there are some striking similarities, aren't there? But hedgehog, you all moan incessantly. All of the gods in Lovecraft stories are uncaring or even hostile to humanity, but the cat actively helps the children grow as people. Well, clearly you haven't read every single story Lovecraft ever wrote like I have. Please help me. In The Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath, Nyarlathotep appears to help hero Randolph Carter in his quest, actively telling him what to do to proceed and granting him the method to do so. Nyarlathotep is not always an antagonist. He will help humans if their goals align, and the cat's goal here seems to be to turn the kids into better people. Finally, we come to The Whisperer in Darkness. Nyarlathotep only gets a brief mention here, but it appears that the main antagonists of that story, the mysterious beings known as the fungi from Yuggoth, worship him in some capacity. This means that Nyarlathotep has beings that are actively working for him, worship him, or are even enthralled to him in some capacity. The story never makes this clear. This is undeniably true of the cat as well. First are the weird multidimensional lawyers that repeatedly appear and disappear whenever the contract is brought up, and of course, how could I forget the things? We should probably talk about those, shouldn't we? The things, of course referred to as Thing 1 and Chocolate Thunder, herald the arrival of 2 very important pieces of our puzzle. One is the things themselves. They seem to originate from the same place of origin as the cat, but appear to be far lesser than him. He has the power of human speech, can be reasoned with, and seems to have a sense of remorse, like when he accidentally ruins Joan's dress. On the other hand, the things have none of these. They babble more than talk, they are constantly needing to be wrangled, and have no rational sense of morality. They run to and fro, causing chaos wherever they go, to the extent that you literally have to ask them to do the opposite of what you want because they are simultaneously too stubborn to listen to you and too dumb to realize what you're doing. They fit in quite well as servants of the Lord of Chaos himself. The second, and more important element, is the crates from whence the things came. The cat explains that this crate should not be opened, as if it is allowed to be, then it will cause the mother of all messes. Whatever that is, it's spoken with clear reverence on the cat's part, for while it seems he knows that this is not something the kids want, it's clearly something nearly akin to holiness for him. And why wouldn't it be? It would essentially be bringing his home plane straight to us. This is where the plot kicks back in. Conrad, of course, fucks with the lock that the cat puts on the box, and it ends up attaching itself to the dog's collar, whom one of the things throws out the window. Most of the second half of the movie is dedicated to chasing after the dog while avoiding both Jonah and Larry, who is revealed to be a real slime ball. While they're chasing after the dog and end up briefly in a cat cult rave, in all seriousness, I have no idea what this is, if not a cult, the cat's home plane is beginning to seep into their living room. But when they finally return to the house, they see that everything is fine? Yeah, no. I mean, fuck. What do you want me to say? This climax is utterly useless to our investigation and in no way correlates to the Lovecraft hypothesis. Do you want me to be a liar? Obviously, the cat has brought the children to an alien and dangerous location. Obviously, it looks like utter chaos and madness incarnate. Obviously, I want to ride that fucking roller coaster, god damn it! But I think the greatest thing about it is how utterly akin to Lovecraft's entire philosophy it is. Lovecraft was a very avid proponent of a certain method of storytelling, which he very briefly expounds on in his essay on supernatural horror in literature. When he discusses the elements that a good cosmic weird tale needs, he says, a certain atmosphere of breathless and unexplainable dread of outer unknown forces must be present, and there must be a hint, expressed with a seriousness and portentousness becoming its subject, of that most terrible conception of the human brain. Notice that he says there should only be a hint of these things. Lovecraft truly believed that the more was shown to an audience, the less their imaginations would have to fill in the gaps, and the less terrifying something became. But, you might say, we see the mother of all messes. It's right there in front of our eyes. Yes, it is, but the mother of all messes is not where the cat comes from. It is simply the manifestation of his home plane in our world, which should call to mind the thought, if this is what happens in our world, then what does his world look like all on its own? Utter madness to try to wrap your head around, right? And this right here, beyond the cat being Nyarlathotep, beyond the mother of all messes and her horrifying geometry, this is what truly makes The Cat in the Hat a cosmic horror story. Larry seems to agree with me, as he shares a fate with so many of his fellow Lovecraftian side characters. He descends into utter madness, ranting and raving about the things he's seen. The kids just giggle and laugh because he's an asshole, but they know that through the veneer of insanity present on his snot-covered face, he is absolutely telling the truth.